The upscale Italian restaurant hummed with Manhattan's elite. Vanessa Cole sat alone at her VIP table. 3 men in dark suits approached, their intentions clear. The tallest one grabbed her wrist forcefully. Another swept her wine glass off the table. The third leaned close, whispering threats. Nearby patrons looked away, pretending not to notice. Michael Harris, a waiter with watchful eyes, set down his tray. His expression shifted from polite to predatory. He moved swiftly, gripping the attacker's wrist and applying precise pressure. A distinct crack echoed as the joint gave way. The man fell to his knees, screaming. His companions stepped back, suddenly afraid. Would you believe an ordinary waiter could move with such deadly precision? Stay with us, the truth about this man's identity will leave you speechless. Vanessa Cole had earned her reputation as one of New York's most formidable business leaders through calculated risks and unwavering resolve. At 34, she'd transformed a struggling tech startup into Horizon Innovations, a cybersecurity giant that protected the data of Fortune 500 companies and government agencies alike. Her ascent hadn't been without casualties former partners left behind. Rivals outmaneuvered, traditions upended. She moved through the corporate world with the cool efficiency of someone who knew exactly what she wanted and precisely how to get it. Last week, she'd rejected a partnership with Damian Cross's consortium after discovering hidden clauses designed to siphon her proprietary technology. "I don't partner with people who try to steal from me," she told him, sliding the contract back across the polished conference table. The boardroom had fallen silent, tension crackling like static electricity. Damian's smile had remained fixed, but his eyes had hardened into blue ice. "You might reconsider," he replied smoothly. "Sometimes protection is worth the cost." She'd maintained eye contact as she stood. "Is that advice or a threat?" she'd asked. His silence had been answer enough. Now, she worked alone, even in public spaces. Her security team had suggested a bodyguard, but Vanessa had refused. "The moment I need an escort to dinner is the moment they win," she'd said. Independence wasn't just a preference, it was a statement. Michael Harris poured water for table 12, nodding at appropriate moments as the guests discussed their stock portfolios. His movements were economical, his presence unobtrusive. At 35, he'd perfected the art of invisibility in plain sight. 6 feet 2 inches of carefully restrained physicality, he moved with the quiet grace of someone accustomed to navigating hostile environments. The restaurant patrons saw only what he allowed them to see, a competent server, unremarkable except for his efficiency. His modest apartment in Queens told a different story. Military precision organized the small space books aligned perfectly on shelves. Kitchen implements arranged by frequency of use. Shoes placed at exact right angles near the door. A framed photo stood on his nightstand. A beautiful woman with laughing eyes holding a toddler with his serious expression. He never moved the picture, never put it face down, even on the darkest nights when sleep evaded him. What his colleagues didn't know was that Michael Harris had once carried the code name The Ghost during classified operations with Naval Special Warfare Development Group, the elite unit within SEAL Team 6. For 11 years, he had moved through shadows in countries whose names rarely appeared in mission briefings, neutralizing threats before they materialized, extracting high-value targets from impossible locations. His personnel file contained more redacted sections than readable text. That life had ended 3 years ago in an operation that went catastrophically wrong. He had left the service and buried his former identity alongside his wife, Sarah. Now he existed in the space between worlds, living only for the moments when his 7-year-old daughter smiled. Damian Cross built his empire methodically, treating business not as a game but as a sophisticated form of warfare. At 40, he controlled diverse holdings ranging from real estate development to private security firms, technology ventures to overseas investments that rarely appeared on official documents. His custom-tailored suits and impeccable manners concealed a calculated ruthlessness that had become instinctive. He viewed sentiment as inefficiency and compromise as weakness. From his penthouse office 58 floors above Manhattan, he surveyed the city like a modern feudal lord. The same skyline that inspired artists filled him with satisfaction at controlling so much of what happened within those gleaming towers. When problems arose, as they inevitably did, he addressed them with surgical precision. The 3 men he'd sent to confront Vanessa weren't common thugs, but former military contractors employed by his private security subsidiary. Their mission had been simple: deliver a message about the consequences of defiance. New York City wrapped around them all, magnificent and indifferent. The same streets that offered opportunity to some presented barriers to others. The same night air carried both celebration and desperation. For all its energy and promise, the city remained fundamentally unconcerned with individual dramas playing out beneath its towering skyline. Police sirens wailed outside the restaurant, blue and red lights flashing through elegant windows. Officers moved methodically through the space, separating witnesses and collecting statements. The 3 attackers sat handcuffed in separate patrol cars. One, grimacing as a paramedic, examined his broken wrist. Crime scene technicians photographed the overturned table and shattered glass, while the restaurant manager hovered anxiously, calculating the public relations damage. Michael stood near the service station, answering a detective's questions with calm precision. "No. I don't know them." "Yes. I saw him grab Miss Cole." "No. I didn't intend to break his wrist. I only applied enough pressure to release his grip." His voice remained steady, his posture relaxed, despite the chaos surrounding him. Nothing in his demeanor suggested he'd done anything more remarkable than clear a difficult table. Vanessa watched him from across the room as a paramedic checked her bruised wrist. The waiter's composure seemed almost supernatural amid the frantic energy of the crime scene. Most people would be shaking with adrenaline after confronting 3 aggressive men, yet he looked like he could immediately return to serving appetizers without missing a beat. When the detective finished questioning Michael, Vanessa approached him. "Thank you," she said simply. That could have ended very differently. Michael nodded once. "Just did what needed doing." "No," Vanessa replied, studying his face. "Everyone else in this restaurant decided looking away was what needed doing. You moved like someone with training." Something flickered in his eyes, wariness quickly concealed. "Former military," he offered briefly, as if that explained everything. "Well, former military. I'm grateful." She extended her business card. "If there's ever anything you need." Michael accepted the card with a slight nod, tucking it into his pocket without examining it. "I should help with cleanup," he said, already turning away. Vanessa watched him walk toward the kitchen, moving through the chaos with practiced ease. Former military didn't fully explain what she'd witnessed. She'd worked with enough security contractors to recognize the difference between basic training and specialized skills. This waiter moved like the elite operators who guarded visiting dignitaries, men who cost thousands per day and underwent years of specialized training. What was someone with those capabilities doing serving pasta to Wall Street executives? The morning newspapers carried the story in their local sections. Waiter thwarts attack on tech CEO. Television news ran brief segments showing the restaurant exterior and stock photos of Vanessa from business conferences. Social networks buzzed with shaky cell phone footage of the aftermath police lights, glimpses of the handcuffed attackers, Vanessa speaking with officers. Michael appeared in none of the images, having slipped away once his statement was complete. In his downtown office, Damian Cross threw the newspaper against the wall, his controlled facade cracking. "One waiter," he said, voice dangerously quiet. "3 of our people neutralized by a waiter." He turned to his head of security. "A former intelligence operative named Victor. Find out everything about this man. I want to know who he is, where he comes from, and what his connection is to Vanessa Cole." Victor nodded once. "Already working on it, sir. Preliminary background shows he's been at the restaurant for 2 years. Before that, military service." "Military service," Damian repeated thoughtfully. "What branch?" "Navy, according to his employment records." "Still." Gathering details, Damian turned to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city he considered more his domain than his home. "Keep digging. I want everything. His finances, his family, his weaknesses. Everyone has pressure points, Victor. Find his." Michael wiped down tables at the restaurant, ignoring the curious glances from colleagues and customers alike. The manager had offered him the day off, which he'd politely declined. Routine was essential. Deviations invited questions. Questions led to attention. Attention was dangerous. He'd already received 3 calls from local news stations seeking interviews. He'd ignored them all. Tonight, he would move apartments, a precaution that had become second nature during his former life. Never stay in a location that's been compromised. Never maintain patterns after exposure. Emily would be disappointed about leaving her bedroom with the star decals on the ceiling, but she'd adapt. Children were resilient. He'd explain it as an adventure. His phone vibrated with a text from Mrs. Patel, his elderly neighbor who watched Emily after school. Television people came asking about you. I said nothing, like you always tell Emily about strangers. Is everything okay? Michael felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Too late. The connection had already been made. He texted back a brief thanks and reassurance, then glanced at the clock. 3 more hours until his shift ended. 3 hours to plan their next move. At Horizon Innovations headquarters, Vanessa sat behind her desk, searching through databases that most people didn't know existed and fewer still had access to. 20 minutes of focused investigation had confirmed her suspicions. Michael Harris wasn't just any former military man. The gaps in his service record, the carefully sanitized personnel file, the conspicuous absence of details about his final years of service all pointed to specialized operations, the kind of operations that governments denied existed. Her private investigator had delivered a preliminary report within hours of her request. Michael Harris, 35, honorably discharged from the Navy 3 years ago. Widower. Raising a 7-year-old daughter alone. No criminal record. Excellent credit score. Minimal social media presence. A model citizen on paper, with just enough verifiable history to seem authentic without revealing anything substantial. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. She recognized the pattern because she had helped create similar cover identities for government contractors. The careful balance between too little information, which raised red flags, and too much, which created vulnerability. Michael Harris wasn't hiding something, he was hiding everything. 2 days after the restaurant incident, Michael walked Emily to school as usual. His daughter skipped alongside him, chattering about her science project on the solar system. At 7, she had his serious eyes but her mother's expressive face and boundless energy. She wore her dark hair in 2 neat braids, her backpack adorned with astronaut pins, a recent obsession sparked by a library book about space exploration. "Will we really move to a new apartment, Daddy?" she asked suddenly, interrupting her own description of Neptune's moons. Michael squeezed her small hand. "Yes, sweetheart. It's going to be an adventure, but I like our apartment. And Mrs. Patel. And the park with the good swings." Her lower lip trembled slightly. He knelt down to her level, adjusting the collar of her jacket. "The new place will have good things too. And we'll still see Mrs. Patel sometimes. Is it because of what happened at your work? The men who were mean to the lady?" Michael kept his expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. "What do you know about that? I heard Mrs. Patel talking on the phone. She said you were a hero." Emily's eyes brightened with pride. "Were you a hero, Daddy?" "No, sweetheart. I just helped someone who needed it." He tucked a stray hair behind her ear. "That's all any of us can do, right? Help when we can." Emily nodded solemnly. "Like when I helped Tommy find his lost lunchbox." "Exactly like that." He stood, glancing around the schoolyard with practiced casualness, scanning for anything unusual. "Have a good day at school. Remember, Mrs. Chen is picking you up today, because you have a doctor appointment." Emily recited dutifully. That's right. The lie came easily, necessary for her protection. The appointment was actually with a former colleague who could provide new identification documents and temporary housing. "I love you, Starlight." "Love you too, Daddy." She hugged him tightly before running toward the school entrance, pigtails bouncing with each step. Michael watched until she disappeared inside, then began walking toward the subway station. He hadn't gone 3 blocks before he sensed the tail of a black SUV moving too slowly through morning traffic, maintaining consistent distance. Amateur work, meant to be noticed. A warning rather than serious surveillance. He turned down a narrow side street, away from security cameras and witnesses. The SUV followed, as he'd expected. When it pulled alongside him, the passenger window lowered. "Mr. Harris," the driver said pleasantly. My employer would like a word. Michael glanced at the man's right hand, resting casually near his hip, where a holster would be positioned. I'm running late for work, he replied, continuing to walk. This won't take long. And it would be in everyone's best interest. The man's tone remained cordial, but the implication was clear. Your daughter's in second grade now, right? Miss Abernathy's class? Michael stopped walking, something cold and dangerous awakening inside him. He looked directly at the driver, allowing a glimpse of the man he used to be to surface in his eyes. That was a mistake, he said softly. The driver's confidence faltered momentarily before he recovered. Just a friendly observation. My employer values education. He's waiting at the cafe around the corner. 5 minutes of your time. Michael weighed his options quickly. Engaging now might contain the situation, prevent further escalation. Refusing would only delay the inevitable, while potentially putting Emily at greater risk. 5 minutes, he agreed, his voice betraying nothing of the calculations running through his mind. The cafe was upscale but quiet. Most morning customers already departed for offices. Damien Cross sat alone at a corner table, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Michael earned in 3 months. 2 security men positioned themselves near the door as Michael entered. Mr. Harris, Damien said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. Thank you for joining me. Coffee? No. Michael replied, remaining standing. You mentioned my daughter. Let's be clear that doesn't happen again. Damien's eyebrows rose slightly. Please. Sit. No one is threatening your child. I merely wanted to confirm. I had the right. Michael Harris. Michael sat, his posture deceptively relaxed, while maintaining optimal position to respond to any threat. 4 minutes now. Direct. I appreciate that. Damien took a sip of his espresso. Your intervention at the restaurant was impressive. Those were trained men. Yet you disabled them with remarkable efficiency. That suggests specialized training. Michael said nothing, his face impassive. Navy SEALs. I understand. Though the details of your service record are surprisingly difficult to access. Damien smiled thinly. Which raises interesting questions about what exactly you did for our government. I served my country. Now I serve pasta. 3 minutes. Here's my proposition, Mr. Harris. Your skills are being wasted on table service. My security division pays considerably better for men with your expertise. 6 figures, flexible hours, full benefits for you and your daughter. Not interested. Before declining so quickly, consider the alternatives. Your current employment is precarious. Your identity is compromised. Relocating will be expensive and disruptive for your child. Damien leaned forward slightly. I'm offering stability. You're offering ownership, Michael corrected. 2 minutes. I prefer to think of it as mutual benefit. Vanessa Cole is becoming a problem for many influential people. Her righteous crusade against certain business practices threatens thousands of jobs, billions in revenue. Sometimes idealism needs to be tempered with pragmatism. And you want me to do the tempering. I want you to reconsider where your loyalties lie. Miss Cole offered you her card, I believe. Has she called? Shown any concern for your welfare after you risked yourself for her? Meanwhile, I'm offering concrete support for you and your daughter. Michael stood. Time's up. Damien remained seated, his expression hardening. Consider carefully, Mr. Harris. I've made a generous offer. The alternative won't be pleasant. Former special operators often struggle with civilian life. PTSD, alcoholism, violent outbursts. Child Protective Services takes such concerns very seriously. Michael placed both hands on the table, leaning down until his face was level with Damien's. Let me be perfectly clear, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. If you come near my daughter again, if you speak her name, if you cause her a moment's distress, what happened to your men at the restaurant will seem merciful by comparison. Damien maintained his composure, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. Threats don't impress me. That wasn't a threat, Michael replied, straightening. It was a promise. He walked toward the door, nodding slightly to the security men as he passed. They shifted uncomfortably, something in his eyes making them reluctant to maintain contact. Outside, Michael walked briskly toward the subway, his mind racing through contingency plans. The confrontation had escalated the situation beyond repair. Emily wasn't safe now. Neither was he. They needed to disappear immediately. His phone rang an unknown number. He almost ignored it, then answered cautiously. "Mr. Harris? This is Vanessa Cole. We need to talk. I believe you're in danger." "I'm handling it." "I'm sure you are, but there's something you should know. Damian Cross doesn't just want me out of the way. He's after technology my company developed military-grade encryption that could compromise national security in the wrong hands. This isn't just business anymore." Michael paused. "What are you suggesting?" "My security team has identified unusual access attempts originating from his organization. We've also intercepted communications suggesting he's planned something significant for tonight. I have resources that could help protect your daughter while we address this." "How do you know about my daughter?" A brief hesitation. "The same way I know you weren't just any Navy SEAL. I have clearance for certain classified databases. Your service record may be redacted for most people, but not for everyone." Michael processed this silently. Either she was telling the truth about her clearance level, which meant she knew exactly who he had been, or she was bluffing based on partial information. Either way, she knew too much. "What do you propose?" he asked finally. "Meet me at my office. 1 hour. Bring your daughter directly from school. My building has security that even Damian can't penetrate." Michael weighed his options. Going alone would be safer, but leaving Emily at school might create vulnerability. Taking her to an unknown situation carried different risks. 1 hour, he agreed finally. "But we meet on my terms. Text me your private number. I'll contact you with a location." In her office, Vanessa ended the call and turned to her head of security, Jason Reed, a former Army Ranger with a perpetual frown. He agreed. "You trust him?" Jason asked, skeptically. "A man we know almost nothing about. Who could be working for Cross already? If he were working for Damian, we'd already be compromised." Vanessa gathered several files from her desk. "Besides, I know enough. Lieutenant Michael Harris, Navy SEAL Team 6, specialized in counterterrorism and high-value target extraction. Codename Ghost for his ability to infiltrate without detection. His team was ambushed during an operation in Yemen 3 years ago. Official report cites equipment failure, but there were indications of an intelligence leak. He was the only survivor. His wife died in a car accident 2 months later, leaving him with their daughter." "Jesus," Jason muttered. "No wonder he's serving pasta. Man's been through hell, and he's about to go through more if Damian has his way." Vanessa checked her watch. "I need to move our sensitive servers to the backup location. Increase security here, but make it subtle. If Damian is watching, I don't want him to know we're expecting trouble." "What exactly do you think Cross is planning?" "Something that requires removing both me and our encryption technology simultaneously. The restaurant was just the opening move testing defenses, creating distraction. The real attack is coming." Michael collected Emily directly from her classroom, signing her out with a fabricated family emergency. Her teacher's concerned expression suggested she'd seen the news, but she asked no questions. Emily, sensing her father's tension despite his calm exterior, stayed unusually quiet as they walked to the subway. "Are we going on an adventure now, Daddy?" she asked, once they were seated on the train. "Yes. Starlight. A short one." He squeezed her small hand. "I need you to be very brave and very quiet, okay? Like our library game." Emily nodded solemnly. The library game was their code for absolute silence, developed during the difficult months after Sarah's death, when they'd spent hours in public libraries, Michael reading to Emily while trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. They exited at a busy station in Midtown, Michael carrying Emily to move faster through the crowds. He took deliberate measures to detect surveillance, doubling back, changing levels, watching reflections in store windows. Satisfied they weren't being followed, he entered a small deli 3 blocks from Horizon Innovations headquarters. He texted Vanessa from a burner phone he'd purchased that morning. Corner booth. Blue baseball cap. 5 minutes later, Vanessa entered alone, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater instead of her usual business attire. She spotted them immediately, but approached the counter first, ordering coffee, before walking casually to their table. "You must be Emily," she said warmly, sliding into the booth. "I'm Vanessa. Your dad helped me the other day." Emily studied her with solemn eyes. "He said you were in trouble." "Daddy helps people in trouble." "He certainly does." Vanessa smiled, then turned to Michael. "Thank you for meeting me. I know this isn't easy." "Explain what's happening," Michael said quietly. "All of it." Vanessa glanced at Emily, who was now coloring on a paper placemat with crayons provided by the waitress. "My company developed encryption technology for secure communications." She began carefully. "Military applications primarily, but with civilian potential. Damien's consortium made an offer 6 months ago, which I declined when I discovered their connections to certain foreign entities with questionable intentions. And 3 weeks ago, we detected sophisticated intrusion attempts on our servers. Last week, my head of research was approached with a substantial bribe. Yesterday, we intercepted communications suggesting a physical breach of our headquarters is imminent." She lowered her voice further. "They don't just want the technology, Michael. They want to ensure no competing version exists, which means eliminating everyone who understands the core algorithms, including you." She nodded. "I'm the only one who knows the complete architecture. My team works with compartmentalized components." Michael absorbed this silently, watching Emily color with concentrated focus. "Why involve me and my daughter?" "You have security, because Damien's already demonstrated he'll use any leverage available. Your intervention at the restaurant made you a target. More importantly, you have skills my security team lacks. You were Ghost Ops, specialized in exactly this kind of situation. That was another life, was it?" Vanessa challenged quietly. "You broke that man's wrist with textbook precision. You've been maintaining counter-surveillance habits walking your daughter to school. You've been living under deep cover for 3 years. But you haven't forgotten anything." Michael's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in his eyes. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A mutually beneficial arrangement. I can provide immediate secure housing for you and Emily off the books. No digital trail. In exchange, you help my team enhance our physical security protocols for the next 72 hours, until our technology transfer to Pentagon oversight is complete. And after 72 hours, new identities if you want them. Legitimate employment with my company's security division. Or financial resources to disappear completely. Your choice." Michael considered her offer, years of training helping him detect deception. He found none in her direct gaze or measured tone. What he did find was something unexpected, respect rather than pity, and the clear-eyed pragmatism of someone who understood exactly what she was asking. "Emily stays somewhere safe. Non-negotiable." "Agreed. I have a house in Connecticut. Isolated, secure perimeter, trusted staff, no digital footprint." Michael nodded slowly. "When do we move?" "Now." As they left the deli, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled smoothly to the curb. Jason exited the driver's side, nodding to Vanessa before opening the rear door. Michael hesitated, old instincts flaring. "Your security chief?" he asked Vanessa. "Jason Reed, former ranger. He'll drive us to Connecticut, then return with me to the office." Michael lifted Emily into the vehicle, whispering to her, "Remember our airplane rule, Starlight." She nodded solemnly, clicking her seatbelt securely. The airplane rule: stay buckled, stay quiet, follow instructions immediately. As they pulled into traffic, Michael noticed a sedan 3 cars back, maintaining consistent distance despite lane changes. "We're being followed," he said calmly. Jason checked the mirrors. "Black Audi. Tinted windows?" "I see it." "Standard evasion protocol?" Vanessa asked. "No," Michael said. "That's what they'll expect." "Next light. Pull over abruptly. Hazards on, like you've had a mechanical issue." "I'll handle it." "We have a child in the vehicle," Jason objected. which is why we're ending this now, not leading them on a chase across the city. Michael turned to Emily. Starlight, I need to step outside for a minute. Stay with Miss Vanessa. Okay? Emily nodded, her small face serious. Is it a bad person, Daddy? Just someone making poor choices, Michael replied. His voice gentle despite the coldness settling into his muscles. I'll be right back. When the SUV pulled over, the Audi continued past, but slowed at the next block. Michael exited casually, appearing to check the vehicle's rear tire. As the Audi made a U-turn at the end of the block, he moved into the shadow of a delivery truck, becoming effectively invisible to the approaching vehicle. The Audi slowed near their SUV, the driver clearly trying to assess the situation. Michael emerged from his concealed position directly beside the driver's window, moving with the fluid precision that had earned him his call sign. Before the driver could react, Michael had reached through the partially open window, disabled the man with a precise strike to the carotid sinus, and unlocked the door. He dragged the unconscious driver across the seat, took his place, and drove the Audi around the corner before any bystanders could process what had happened. After parking in an alley, he quickly searched the vehicle and the driver, finding a phone, a gun, and an ID card for a security firm known to work with Damien's consortium. He removed the gun's firing pin, left it in the glove compartment, and slipped the phone into his pocket before returning to the SUV, the entire operation having taken less than 3 minutes. Clear, he said, sliding back into his seat. But they'll have others. We need to move quickly. Jason pulled back into traffic, visibly impressed despite his professional caution. Vanessa said nothing, but her gaze held new appreciation. Emily, who had been watching Vanessa's tablet, looked up at her father's return. Did you help the person make better choices, Daddy? Michael brushed her hair gently. I sure tried. Starlight. The drive to Connecticut proceeded without further incident. The house proved to be more fortress than country retreat. A modernist structure sat on 20 wooded acres with state-of-the-art security systems discreetly integrated into the architecture. A motherly housekeeper named Margaret greeted them, immediately taking to Emily with offers of freshly baked cookies and a tour of the room prepared for her. She'll be safe here, Vanessa assured Michael as they watched Emily follow Margaret upstairs. The property has a 5-minute response team on call, communications jammers to prevent surveillance, and no connection to me in any public records. It's owned by a shell corporation 3 layers deep. You've prepared for serious threats, Michael observed. In my business, paranoia is just good planning. She checked her watch. We should head back. I'll show you what we're dealing with at headquarters. Michael hesitated, looking toward the stairs where Emily had disappeared. I need 5 minutes with her first. He found Emily in a spacious bedroom with large windows overlooking the forest. Margaret had already shown her the collection of children's books and stuffed animals prepared for their arrival. Look, Daddy, they have Orion, she exclaimed, holding up a plush brown bear identical to her favorite toy, which had been left behind in their hasty departure. That's great, Starlight. He sat on the edge of the bed. I need to go help Miss Vanessa with something important, but Margaret will stay with you. Remember what we talked about. Emily's expression grew serious. Stay inside. Listen to grown-ups. No phones or computers. If I hear loud noises, hide in the special place. She pointed to the closet, intuitively identifying the best shelter in the room. That's my girl. He pulled her into a tight hug. I'll be back soon. You're being a hero again, aren't you? She whispered against his shoulder. Michael closed his eyes briefly. I'm just trying to help, like we talked about. Like Mommy used to say, being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing anyway. A lump formed in his throat. That's exactly right. Mommy would be so proud of how brave you're being. Emily pulled back, her small hands framing his face with surprising solemnity. Be careful, Daddy. I need you to come back. Always. Starlight. That's a promise. 1 year later, Emily Harris celebrated her 8th birthday in the Connecticut garden, now blooming with summer flowers. A small gathering of new friends surrounded her classmates from her new school. Margaret and her grandson, Jason, and his wife, Ryan, with his service dog, Ranger. Michael supervised the cake cutting with meticulous attention to fairness, making sure each child received an identical portion, much to Vanessa's amusement. Their relationship had evolved gradually over months of rebuilding trust and establishing new rhythms, professional respect, deepening into friendship, then something more meaningful. Horizon Innovations had transformed its security division under Michael's leadership, focusing on protecting vulnerable technologies from exploitation. His team, composed largely of veterans struggling to find purpose in civilian life, had become one of the most respected in the industry. The Navy SEAL, who had disappeared into anonymity, had re-emerged not as a weapon, but as a shield. As Emily blew out her candles, cheered on by her friends, she glanced up at Michael with bright eyes. "Did you make a wish too, Daddy?" Michael looked from his daughter to Vanessa, who was helping distribute cake with the same focused efficiency she brought to corporate boardrooms. "No need, Starlight," he replied softly. "I already have everything I could wish for." Emily considered this seriously before declaring, "That's because you were brave when it was hard. Like Mommy always said." Michael knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Your mom was right about a lot of things." "I know," Emily agreed. "She said love makes us stronger, not weaker, and you're super strong now." Michael gathered her into a hug, his eyes meeting Vanessa's over Emily's shoulder. In her gaze, he found understanding, respect, and something that had been missing from his life for too long, a future worth moving toward rather than a past to escape. True strength, he had finally learned, wasn't found in perfect isolation or flawless self-sufficiency. It emerged in the courage to build connections despite knowing their fragility, to love deeply despite understanding loss, to step forward despite the weight of memory. As Emily ran back to her friends, Vanessa slipped her hand into his. "Happy?" she asked simply. Michael squeezed her hand gently. "Getting there," he replied honestly. "One day at a time. And for now, that was enough, the precious gift of ordinary moments, strung together into a life reclaimed from shadows. Not perfect, not without scars, but authentic and, finally, fully his own."